Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to another edition of Triad Today. Coming up later on, our infamous Roundtable gets together. We'll see what they have to say about a wide range of controversial topics, so stay tuned for that. But between now and then, some great guests and information coming your way. David Mounts from NMAR will be here to remind us of what we can all do to help make education better in our state. Speaking of improving things, we'll have a special guest from the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation to tell us how that great organization is doing things to help improve quality of life for a number of communities. And we'll hear from the folks at Randolph Community College about a new curriculum they're offering on massage therapy. There's a lot going on, and we'll get to that. But first, we start out with anthropology, something I know absolutely nothing about, but hopefully, fortunately, our first guest knows about it and knows about this museum we're going to talk about. Let's meet her. Lori Bates on my right. Sarah Cromwell is Assistant Director of the Museum of Anthropology at Wake Forest University, and we welcome you to Triad Today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good to see you. And you come to us by way of Connecticut. You were telling me off camera, made your way down south, so welcome to the South.
Thank you.
But now you've been here, you've been in this post a pretty long time. How many years?
I have 13 years at the Museum of Anthropology.
13 years. Now tell me, we'll get to the specifics in a second. Give me 10 or 15 seconds on generally what the museum is about, what your mission is about.
Sure, absolutely. So the museum was founded in 1963 by members of the faculty of the Department of Anthropology as a place to sort of deposit the things that they had collected on their fieldwork around the world. Since then, we've grown to about 30,000 objects in our collection. We have representing 90 countries and about 350 cultures. So we try to collect as broadly as we can through the wonderful generosity of people in this community.
You know, and I mentioned some of our guests coming up later in the half hour that you've met in the green room that help to improve quality of life, help to improve communities. Your study in the museum is really sort of celebrating and being able to understand more about humanity, isn't it?
Absolutely, sort of just the diversity of humanity in general. Anthropology is such a broad topic that we want to kind of cover all of those things.
Now we'll get to the special exhibit in just a second, and in general, give me an example of a kind of exhibit I might see if I go over there.
Sure, any visitor at any time will see our permanent exhibit, which is called Stories of Humanity, Anthropology in North Carolina. So it gives an introduction to anthropology because a lot of people don't understand what it is, and it's such a broad field, and takes each one of those sort of subsections of the discipline and gives examples of things that connect to North Carolina and artifacts that we have.
Now, I understand you sent me an email about something called World Religions Exhibit. What's that all about?
Sure. So it's called Faith, 5 World Religions. It's a project that we worked on with Religion 101 classes at Wake Forest. It focuses on the 5 most widely practiced religions in our area. So those are Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism,
In our area,
and Judaism.
In our area, meaning North Carolina.
Meaning North Carolina, meaning the Triad, really.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you're pinpointing it to this
Yep,
particular.
absolutely.
Now, you also said in the email something about this, you have this exhibit called Day of the Dead. Does that have to do with zombies? I hope not.
No zombies, I promise. It's not frightening.
Right.
So it is the Mexican celebration of Day of the Dead, which coincides with All Saints and All Souls Day. And it's sort of a unique celebration involved in sort of honoring your ancestors. Some people believe that the spirits of the ancestors actually return. So you put up altars to your deceased relatives,
Right.
And so we have a really great collection of skeleton folk art and things, and it's a happy and colorful occasion.
You said skeletons?
Yep,
In
lots of
time
skeletons.
for Halloween?
Yep.
Whoa, that is kind of scary.
I
now,
promise.
Let me ask a stupid question before we run out of time. A lot of times when there's a facility or a museum or something on a campus, sometimes the public doesn't realize that they can go in there.
Yeah, the gates at Wake Forest are a little intimidating. We are open to the public. It is absolutely free for anybody who comes, Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 4:30.
Anything I should know before visiting?
We do have our own parking lot, so that shouldn't be a deterrent either. We are very family friendly, even though our exhibits can be at a higher level. We really try to have something for kids to be able to relate to that
hey, that's
content.
how a family lived back then, and they can see examples of it. All right, up on screen, Museum of Anthropology at Wake Forest University, and the website is MOA for Museum of Anthropology, moa.wfu.edu. We hope you will check that out. There's lots of neat stuff on there, and also a special thanks to the good folks at Visit Winston-Salem, to Rich and Marquita. The website for Visit Winston-Salem is up on screen, visitwinstonsalem.com. They suggested this topic. Of course, they are the gurus of tourism and getting people in this area, and we appreciate all the effort they do. And Sarah, I appreciate what you do to try to bring humanity to the rest of us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll be right back after this. On Triad Today, always glad when we can meet a new guest to the program, and she is new to the program, but she's not new to what she does, and she's good at what she does. Next to me, the very lovely Tania Monroe. She's coordinator of what's called Adult Basic Life Skills Education, and she's also director of the Archdale Center for Randolph Community College. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Good to see
Thank you.
You have a long title there, Life Skills Adult, Basic Life Skills Education. Very quickly, what does that entail?
It's for our disabled adults. It's a program for disabled adults at RCC.
And I know you do a great job
I love it.
with that. Now, I understand, I think you sent me an email one day that you're doing this new therapeutic massage program, a curriculum.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, our therapeutic massage program, right now we're running evening classes. We have 10 students, and they are coming to learn how to be a therapeutic masseuse. And the thinking is, well, we'll just come and take a class and learn over the weekend and
Right.
learn how to rub someone's back. It's really extensive. It's 625 hours.
How much?
625.
That's a lot of time put in there.
It is.
And what do you teach? Is there science involved? Is there anatomy involved? I mean, what do you teach on this?
A lot of science, a lot of anatomy, physiology, kinetics is rampant. There's a lot to learn. When people come in and they have an issue, they can't move, our students learn about the bones and how the bones are connected, and they need to know that in order to treat that patient.
Right. Now, is there still a big demand for massage therapists in this area, so that as people put in their hours and learn from you and go out into the world, as they say, will they be able to get a job? Will they be able to make a career in this? Is there enough in demand?
There is. Massage therapists are available. They work as chiropractors. They work in doctor's office, hospitals, not necessarily just a massage therapist. There's a lot of job, career opportunities available.
What would you say to prospective students that might be listening or watching the program? What would you want them to know about this program, want them to know about what you're trying to teach them if they think they're interested?
Well, it is a license exam that you have to pass. The prospective student has to be a people person, so they can't come in and not like people.
Right.
They will be touching people's skin,
Right.
so you have to do that, and just have a sense of wanting to learn and ability to help people.
Yeah. I once made the mistake of getting a massage from this big old lady from overseas, and she said, how do you want it, hard, harder, or hardest? And she just about killed me. And she
Yes.
had no people skills.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, wow, something's wrong here, and you're fixing that problem.
We are.
Making sure that people know that. That's good. Now, is there a cost for this program? Are there materials you have to pay for, or what?
The cost is $180.55. There's also a $16 insurance charge. And after that, we have to get a massage bed and other essential costs that are related to it. Students wear scrubs so they can be associated with Randolph Community College.
Right.
And just the thought of just being in the program is really good.
It is a great program. Now, how can someone sign up? I'm assuming that if I'm going to mention a phone number and the general website, and you tell me if this is correct or incorrect. Area code 336-328-1750.
Yes.
So if they call that, they can learn how to sign up and all this.
Yes.
And also on screen is the general website for the college, www.randolph.edu, where you can get a lot of information, not just about your program, Tania, but about everything. And I think we have a few seconds left. I was going to ask you, because you said you were from Asheboro, you're a
Yes.
local gal. What made you want to get into education?
That's just what I've always wanted to do. We were in high school and we did some little classes in the elementary school, and I was hooked.
From that early on?
Yes.
Had some teachers you liked back then?
Yes.
Teachers can sort of inspire you,
They
can't they?
They can.
Well, you inspire me, and I know you inspire all the folks you work with over there. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you so much.
All right, Tania, will you
Nice
come
to
back
meet you.
sometime?
Thank you. I certainly
All right.
will.
We'll be right back after this. Now on Triad Today, and always nice to meet a new guest here on the program with an organization that's been represented here before many times. Let's meet him right now. On my right, James Gore is Senior Program Officer of Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation. What a great organization it is. Welcome, sir.
Great, thank you.
Good to see
Thanks for
you.
having us.
I like your bow tie, by the way.
Appreciate it.
Is that a certain color because of an affiliation with a college or high school, or?
It is what was on the back of my door before I came here.
All right. I was just worried that you might be a Tennessee Vol person, and I didn't want to say anything wrong. All right. Well, where were you born, by the way?
I was born and raised in Cleveland, but I've been in North Carolina for more than 20 years now.
Well, we're glad you're here. Now remind the viewers, just in a few seconds, the overall mission of the foundation before, because I got a couple specific things I want to ask you about. What's the overall mission?
The overall mission of the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation is basic. It's to make a better life for the people of North Carolina.
Now you recently launched something called All for NC. All for NC. Tell us about that initiative.
Sure. So the All for NC initiative really came about after a 2-year strategic planning process. And through that, we really developed 3 primary strategies. One is our state-level systemic change strategy, which is an effort to really try to address in really 4 issue areas: the environment, education, social and economic justice, and then strengthening democracy. So we're working in a grant cycle as we speak on that.
Right.
Our exploratory visionary ideas, which are really meant to do some high risk but potentially high reward opportunities that other entities, government can't necessarily do.
I'm putting you on the spot. Give me an
Sure.
example of what you would consider a high-risk thing that normally wouldn't get funded.
So one of the things that we have just launched over the last couple of weeks is a inclusive public art strategy, which is an effort to really share the voices and share through public art the contributions of women and people of color throughout North Carolina
Right.
in a public setting, in a public venue.
And I interrupted you. You were going to finish with the other thought, too.
And then the last section is our community-based strategy, which there are really 2 components as well.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. Community-based strategy, what is that? That's a little over my head. What do you mean by that in terms of the actual things that you're going to implement?
Sure. So there are 2 strategies within our community-based. One is what we're calling our collaborative problem-solving effort, which is really an intent to bring diverse groups of people across local communities, counties, regions, to come together to try to tackle a significant issue that community is facing through an authentic engagement, inclusive engagement, and collaborative engagement by people from all levels of that community, whether the community is a city or whether it's a region of the state.
What about the grants that you make? I mean, people will be watching this and they'll say, okay, I know there's sort of 2 things going on here, Jim. One is the foundation would love to have people give money to it or set things up in trust or whatever so that this can go on and, forever. The other thing is maybe I don't have anything to contribute financially, but I identify there's some needs around the community.
Sure.
Do you take input from people? How do you know what needs to be worked on?
Absolutely, we take input, and we've been doing that through this 2-year process previously, our strategic assessment process. And that's really where these ideas, our new strategy has been guided by, is based upon that input we received from folks throughout the state, from Greenville to Silva, on the strategies and input that the foundation can
And I want to be
engage in.
clear so people understand too, we talk about grant making and that you're very generous in helping out various organizations. I don't care what good idea you have, or I might have a good idea, but I'm an individual. I can't just go in and say I want a grant. I mean, there have to be certain guidelines, right?
Sure. So the basic guidelines are being a nonprofit organization, 501c3 organization. We do accept applications from governmental units as well, so a city or county or a school system. Also, most faith-based institutions, churches, are considered nonprofit organizations as well.
Right, and I'm going to put up on screen this website because this will give you an idea of some guidelines that you can keep in mind if you think your organization has a great idea or a specific need that's critical to improving the community and quality of life. ZSR.org. Please visit that for Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation. And James, I really appreciate what you do.
Absolutely. Thanks for having
And
us.
tell Mo and everybody I said hello.
Will do.
All right.
Thanks again.
All right, young man. We will see you in the back now on Triad Today. There are things that happen in here during the commercial breaks we'd rather not talk about. But what I do want to talk about is this good friend of mine who comes on here whenever we can get him. He's a busy man and a great community servant. Next to me, our good buddy, David Bounce, Chairman and CEO of Inmar. And welcome back to the program, sir.
Thanks, Jim. Good to see you.
When you were here earlier this year, we talked about ways that we can all help to improve education in our state. And maybe that was a little intimidating for people. So wait a minute, how can I do that? I want to touch back on that in just a second, but first, in general, remind us what this initiative is called My Future NC. Give me a reminder.
My Future NC is a commission that is bringing together leaders from business, from public sector, from academia, from faith-based organizations, nonprofits, to get together and talk about where our education system needs to be to make North Carolina citizens employable and competitive in the future.
So you're almost saying that there's sort of we want to look at a continuum of involvement from kindergarten up through college and beyond into making careers, right?
Yes, we do, and we're really looking at what we call pre-K through workforce, and we're looking at all of the layers of education, how they interconnect, and how do we make sure that by the time people go through our education systems, at the other end of that, in the labor force, that they are coming forward with the skills that will meet what's in demand. And it is a comprehensive look, one that frankly has never been done before, and very few states are doing as comprehensive a view as North Carolina is.
You mentioned to me one time before that a lot of jobs go unfilled in this area and throughout the state. Is that one of the reasons that you were telling me in an email one day that this whole initiative is so critical?
I think it's very critical for many reasons, and that's one of them. Right now, we have 2/3 of U.S. employers that are hiring full-time employees that have open positions they can't fill. The number of jobs being posted every day is growing at a rate more than the number of jobs being filled. So in other words, the gap is increasing. When you look at the job openings, they're staying open for 12 weeks and longer. 60% of the jobs are staying open for 12 weeks or longer. And at the same time, we have, just in North Carolina, 214,000 people that do not have jobs, that are unemployed, okay? And it's because their skills don't match the jobs that are open.
And they would love to have a job.
They would love to have it.
They're still reeling from the recession that was years ago, but we're still reeling from that. And yet you're saying that they're facing these barriers that they shouldn't face.
They're facing the barriers, and I think if we take a little bit longer term perspective too, Jim, 2/3 of the people that are employed today, the skills that they have, in 15 to 20 years, their jobs will be completely automated or eliminated. So we have to keep growing no matter where we are along the education continuum, and then even after we're in the workforce, we have to keep learning.
All right, now here's the big question. How should people get involved in this whole initiative? It's one thing for you to talk about it and say this is what it can do, this is our problem, this is how to fix it. How does somebody get involved in that?
Well, the fact that we have a commission that's out around the state doing listening tours and getting perspectives from everyone across our community is a really great start, and we've been doing that. We've been organizing that feedback, and the commission has been doing a fair amount of research, and what we're doing is identifying and listening to what kinds of ideas will help us get to the outcomes that we want, and we're starting to organize those into 2 buckets. One is, what are the barriers that are keeping us from attaining the goals we want? And then the second bucket is, what are the list of recommendations we need to put together and take those recommendations and drive them through the legislative process and through the communities and the entire ecosystem, including the workforce.
Well, we didn't rehearse this or anything, but I'll say one thing. I mean, I think one of these things has to be that the kids sometimes don't feel engaged in education at all levels. And I have to tip my hat to you guys, because all the things you're doing with young people and with STEM and girls robotics teams and getting interns in there and everything, you're doing a great job at Inmar of really engaging people, that I think that helps as they advance in their careers. So with that and with a lot of things, there's a lot of work to be done. And
there is, and I think if we can come together and people can follow along with what's happening by going to the My Future NC blogs.
It's up on screen now, myfuturenc.org.
And I would love for people to do that. There are also going to be in Asheville and in Charlotte a couple of upcoming meetings where people can come and join in the coming months, and those are also on the blog site.
And I hope they will. myfuturenc.org and inmar.com, and check that out. David Mounts, thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. We'll be right back after this. Oh, back now on Triad Today, time for the Roundtable. Let's get right to it. On my right, but always the political left, that great broadcaster and journalist, Ogie Overman. And next to him is the lovely, talented Supreme Court Justice, Carol, no, not right. Carol, yeah, we wish. Carol Andrews, author of the book From Author to Entrepreneur, public speaker, broadcaster, author. You can get this book. Go to Carol Andrews on Amazon and get her book, please. It's great. I like it. And speaking of great, next to her is my friend of 100 years, Dave Plyler, happens to be chairman of the County Commissioners in Forsyth, longtime broadcaster. Guys and gals, let me just do a quick disclaimer for the audience. We are taping this particular roundtable on Wednesday afternoon, so none of us have heard any testimony that was coming up on a Thursday in the Kavanaugh Supreme Court hearing. By now, you're watching on Saturday or Sunday, he could now be confirmed, he could have withdrawn, we don't know. But my first question is, and I happen to believe the women that said things about him, but nobody cares my opinion. Anyway, the question is not about that case, but in general, guys and gals. Should you be held responsible? Say you do something as a teenager. Should that keep you from getting a job later on as an adult, in general? Ogie.
In general, no. But this is not in general, Jim. You can't separate it. I mean, the Supreme Court, and if the guy had just, even if he had done these things, if he would say, look, this has been bothering me for 40 years. I'm wanting to make amends to these women, and I'm so very sorry. We would forgive the guy.
Right. In general, Carol, what do you think? Should something you do as a 17-year-old?
In general, no. In this case, I think we have to let due process take its course, even in this case, because accusations aren't proof. Accusations aren't evidence.
Right.
So no matter what you believe, it has to take its course.
Dave, these things, accusations, true or not, I mean, they
I'll
taint.
make it unanimous, no. And I'm not really sure that just because we're talking about the Supreme Court makes it that different. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right.
If you want a job as a restaurant manager and you're 45 or 50 years old and you did something embarrassing as a 17-year-old, you guys are basically saying in general, no. But
I'm wondering who would be working.
Yeah, well, probably none of us. Speaking of judges, a federal court has ruled that it's okay for someone to be identified as intersex, INTERSEX, on their passport rather than declare themselves as male or female. Guys and gals, you okay with that, Ogie?
Yeah, I am. I don't know where they got that word from, but I'm okay with that, sure. Why not?
Carol?
I wonder what the purpose is. I just have to wonder purpose behind. Is it for health reasons? Is it just an identity? You know, and I don't know that would even make a difference. That's one courts will have to decide.
Does it pose any kind of a problem security-wise or concern you at all, Dave?
No, this is the 21st century. Change is always going to take place. Some change is good, some change is bad. This particular case, I don't see the point.
All right. Millions of pets and livestock, as you know, were abandoned to die during the floods of Hurricane Florence and took lives of 40-some people tragically. But let me ask you specifically, with these ranging from household pets to chickens to livestock to whatever, given that we had a number of days warning that this was coming and that people should evacuate, should anyone who abandons an animal to die be charged with a felony, Ogie?
I tell you, Jim, that's tough. But first of all, the livestock, you can't really round up the chickens and the horses and the goats. The pets, I know these people did not do that on purpose. And then to come back and having had lost your possessions, probably your home, your animals are dead, and then get charged with a felony is just a little too cruel.
Carol?
Right, and I think there's an intent level in there. For a felony, you've got to prove some sort of intent. And I just don't think people set out to say, okay, I'm leaving. I just don't think they set out for that.
Mr. Plyler?
I think Carol's correct, and I also would add that we do eat bacon quite often and several
Right.
other. So it depends on what you want and what your appetite is.
All right, the Texas Board of Education has streamlined its required curriculum by eliminating Hillary Clinton because they say she isn't important enough, but they have included Moses because they say the Ten Commandments had an influence on government. Quickly, are you okay with purging Hillary from the history books to make room for Moses? Ogie?
Well, they also got rid of Helen Keller.
Yeah.
What? Texas is a strange
It's a different,
state.
it's a different country.
It's a different place.
Carol?
I think when history is told the way history is, that's when we start growing as a nation.
Dave Plyler?
I'm a product of the 50s in high school, and there was no black history course in any school that I know of. And I used to wonder why, and that's a good reason.
Yeah, because people will just go and purge things for no good reason, too. Very quickly, the White House has announced that only 30,000 refugees will be allowed in the country next year. That's down from 85,000 that President Obama let in the last year as his president. Are you okay with lowering the number? Quickly, Ogie.
I'm not okay with anything Trump does. Why don't we just go ahead and give the Statue of Liberty back to France, or just blow it up and let it sink in the harbor? I mean, come
Carol?
on.
I won't go that far. Again, I'll ask for reasoning.
Dave?
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. I've grown up with that all my life. I
Yeah.
see no reason to
You
change
think
it.
let them in? I think there ought to be a limitation. I'm kind of conservative. I'm a liberal, but I'm kind of conservative on that. How much time we have, Brian? All right. Very quickly, there's a columnist from the Heritage Foundation said Donald Trump should win the Nobel Prize for Economics. Quickly. You think he should have done
No,
it?
that's
Never
just-
mind, Ogie.
that's just
Never
laughing.
mind.
You have to ask him.
Carol?
All right, I will say this. Nobel Prize, what are the qualifications? Take the name out of it, does he qualify?
Dave.
Don't know, but I'll tell you this, my stock is sky high right now.
All right, finally, last week we talked about presidents who went skinny dipping, but I got a lot of mail because people said, why didn't you ask the panel if they skinny dip? Quickly, guys and gals, have you ever gone skinny dipping? And if so, were you alone at the time? Oh, Gilberman.
You know I invented streaking, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Well, some of those streaks were.
Yeah, there you go. Carol.
Go back to that question about if you did something as a teenager, would you have a job?
So now we're just going to imagine that Carol.
No.
We're going to imagine
I
Dave.
said nothing.
Dave.
I agree with Carol.
You can't just agree with Carol on a skinny dipping question. Anyway,
what my
speaking of
husband says,
Carol,
it
just a
works.
reminder to get Carol's book and do that. And in her book, it'll talk about skinny dipping. No, it won't. Well, that's all the time we have. Oh, except for this. British scientists say that September is the month when spiders crawl into your house so they can mate with each other. Hey, get a room, said the ants in the kitchen. It's an insect thing. For all of us here on the Triad Today, we'll see you next week.